Welcome to Urban Knife Guy, where we explore the urban lifestyle and jungle survival. Today we're going to have a look at a couple of tracker knives, and I'm going to share what I think are important design elements of a tracker knife and what you should look out for. First, if you watch this channel regularly but have not subscribed, please do so to help the channel out. Thanks. So I've got 4 tracker knives over here. This is the original, the OG. It's the Resin Tracker, designed in 1981. And all tracker knives after that basically follow this pattern. So this really started it all. This next one is by CSF out of Indonesia. They have the interpretation of the tracker. This is by Poshlan. It's a Pakistani company who does a lot of variations of trackers knives. And this is Big Cat Raw. It's a US company, but the knives are made in Pakistan. And I should mention that the Resin Tracker is also made in Pakistan. I've done videos on each of these knives, so do check out the links in the description below. So I'm not going to go through the features of every single knife, but I'm going to highlight different things about them. I think the first thing we can talk about are the sheaths. So you can see the sheaths are all quite different. Now, in the movie The Hunted, this particular knife was a featured prop, and the character carried the knife scout carry style, which means he carried it on the small of his back horizontally, and that's why all of these have this horizontal carry straps. But some of them do have these vertical belt loops because they know that we aren't in the movie. This is real life, and in practical scenarios it's easier to carry it vertical carry, but these 2 knives here, as you can see, all horizontal carry only. So I like the fact that a sheath like that should have a vertical carry system. I can see the appeal of a scout carry. I personally would never ever carry any knife scout carry, but I'm sure there's some people who would want to. So I would say finding a sheath that has both capabilities would be something you want to look for. Next would be, I would say, quality of the leather. I would say the Pakistani leathers are actually pretty good. This one is also from Pakistan, but it's a bit on the thin side. For this specific model, this particular leather is a bit too thin and dry, and it's not something you want in a sheath. So whether or not this is a tracker knife, in general, for any kind of fixed blade, you want leather that is thick, so that it's durable, there's no way you can cut through it, and you want something that is not too dry. You want that softness in it, so that it's supple and it can, take all the stress of bending, forming, and opening up of straps and closing them as such. So just important things, I think, to think of a sheath. Of course, these are all leather sheaths. If you can also get Kydex sheaths, which are thermoplastic that form around the blades of the knife. Okay, let's unsheath all of these. Well, I should probably mention in terms of the style of the fasteners as well. I personally favor this sort of a cross fastener, as opposed to these that just go around the sides. These, I think, are still okay because there is a guard around it, so that when you do kind of pull it open, you don't have 2 straps that you have to worry about when you take out the knife. Now, in a lot of traditional sheaths, you notice there are 2 straps, and it's always very easy to kind of cut the straps as you pull out the knife over time. But I personally prefer this diagonal because I can just flip it over and even use another finger from the other hand to hold it open to pull out the sheath over here. And let's open this one as well, and we'll basically have all the knives. And this one has a nice pouch as well, so that's a feature if you like to have a pouch to carry maybe some kind of a sharpening stone or tinder, a lighter, or maybe a small survival kit. Then you look for a sheath with a pocket just like that. And here we have all 4 tracker knives. As you can see, they all follow the same basic pattern. There's always this front portion over here, which is bigger and is more like a axe or a hatchet, where it's designed for heavy duty chopping. Then there is a secondary grind, which is a straight kind of an edge, which is used for finer work. There's also saw teeth on the front back of the blade. This is not meant to saw through wood, but to create notches for 10 pegs or for trap making. And 3 of these knives have those saw teeth, but the CSF Tracker does not. The CSF Tracker and the Poland Tracker also doesn't have jimping over here in the original design. There's jimping right here so your thumb can go on to get a better grip. As with any knives, the handles can be made out of wood or micarta. These 2 knives, the original Russian Tracker and this porcelain Tracker, uses micarta, and this has ebony handles, and this, I believe, walnut handles. So really depends. I personally prefer micarta. I think it works better when your hands are a bit dry, not as slippery. You can rough them up if you want, absorbs oil well as well. But I guess the main feature about the Tracker knife would be the design and the pattern. And let's just start off with the original, because since that's the original, I also think it's got the best blade geometry and gives us the best sense of what a tracker should be. And I think the best thing about this would be, yes, you always want a thick, big head, and blade stock's also probably important. You want a thick blade stock, and I would say 5 millimeters would be the right thickness. You could go, I guess, slightly more, but that would be heavier as well. But I would not want something too thin like this one over here. This is 3.5 millimeters. That's too thin for a tracker knife in my opinion. So you do want a nice big head, and then you want this kind of a secondary edge to be as long as possible. You notice some of these, well, by virtue of the fact this is a shorter blade, so it's shorter, but I think it should be as long as possible. And I like this diagonal kind of slant, which really I see only mainly with the original Tracker. This one has a slight curve, but really you can see this is much more pronounced, and then gives you a much longer surface to cut with. Now, another feature of the Tracker, which is really important, is this quarter round here. Now, this can be used as kind of a gut hook, or it can be used to do feather sticking, really fine shavings where you can actually curl round a rod or a kind of a piece of wood, and it curls round and really shaves really nice fine pieces of curls off the wood. And you'd see, like in the CSF one, this really doesn't seem to have any quarter round, although in my field test when I did try it out, it could actually create curls because there is actually a sharpened edge. It's just so small you can hardly see it. It looks like a 90-degree angle, but there's a really slight kind of a blade edge, which is a quarter round. But I think the intent is not good enough. This one does not have that. In fact, you can see it doesn't really understand what the design is supposed to be. It's straight, and then they just put in a curve, but actually the grind is supposed to be seamless, and this obviously doesn't have that and can't do that work. This one, in my opinion, there is a round, but it's not a quarter round. It's a bit too gradual, so you can't get that same work as this kind of a gut hook type of shape would give you. So those, I think, are the key things I would look at for a Tracker knife. And another thing I would look at is the grind. Now, all the Tracker knives seem to have a hollow grind for the front, and that is the case of the original Russian Tracker as well. And maybe that's why everyone follows it. But I personally think this is not the right grind for this part of the Tracker. I really think this should be a convex grind. It can be a convex grind with a secondary bevel. That's okay as well, but I think that's needed in order to really get that chopping power and to slice through. Now, when I did field tests with all these, and you can see it in my video, they could all chop. However, when it came to bamboo, the Tracker out of the box could not chop through the bamboo, which was actually a surprise. So what I did was I sharpened it out, I brought it out again, and I tried to chop bamboo. Let's see how that turned out. Okay, it definitely can cut through. Now it's not dropping simply because it's caught up above near the crown, so it's not dropping. Leaves are holding it in place, but it can cut. Still not as easy as I thought. Maybe it's the geometry of the head, because it is very sharp, but still didn't slice through as easily as I would hope. So as you can see, it worked out better, but I still think the hollow grind is hindering ultimate performance. So personally, if I were to make a tracker, I'll make sure that's a convex grind for the front. For the secondary grind, everyone tends to use a hollow grind. That's pretty good. I mean, it's really slicey, but if this knife is kind of your all-in-one survival tool, your one-two option, a lot of this would probably be used for woodwork. Now, normally for hollow grind, you like it for hunting knives where you can skin, but that really is for the whole blade. Now, if you're doing something like that without the hollow grind here, it might not be as easy to skin and food process as well. So maybe I think a better grind might be a flat grind or even a saber grind. That'd be, I think, my personal favorite. But they all tend to be hollow grinds. I think the last thing I'll talk about is the handle shape and the length. I think the handles should be a bit longer. The Russin tracker, it's not too bad. I think if you have really large hands, it might feel a bit small. I would prefer it just to be a bit larger. This Big Cat Raw actually has quite a nice long handle, which is good, but it's too thin. If you just compare it, let's say, to this, and if you compare it to the CSF, it's a bit thin, and that actually doesn't work out well when you're using it out in the field. When you're chopping, you get fatigued very easily. You can't get the grip. And honestly, when you're chopping with the tracker or any knife, you generally would move back so that you hold it towards the end, and then you let the weight of the knife come down as you chop, so that you get maximum chopping capabilities out of the knife. So as such, you want to make sure this end has a good grip for you to really shape such that you can get a good purchase. Now this is pretty good, but I think it's just a bit short, and because it's just thin, or I won't say thin, but of a just straight shape, you really need, again, to hang on tight so it doesn't fall out. And I think all of these suffer from it. Maybe this was not bad because you can see there's a swell, so you can actually get a bigger grip, but it's a bit too thin. So I really think the tracker knives can take a cue out of the traditional parang. So this is a parang, and this particular one is from My Parang, a very good Malaysian parang brand. And this is a very traditional style parang handle. Now, it may not look as nice and cool as these ergonomically shaped handles, but it serves a very good purpose. When you're holding it like that, this kind of rests against your pinky, so you get a really good grip. But if you're going to do chopping, you can move this back and you can grip it. It's almost like a pistol handle. You get a really good purchase, and because it's nice and thick, it doesn't feel like it's going to fall out. You get a good, confident grip. So I'm not saying this exact handle should be transposed to the tracker knives, but I think that some lessons can be learned if this can be shaped better, since it's meant to be a chopper as well. Those are my thoughts on the tracker knives. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you have experience with trackers? Do you agree with some of the features that are pointed out? And do you think that I've missed out any important things that a tracker knife should have? So do let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you like the content in general, please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.